The Bold and the Beautiful. Steffi's return reignites the Forrester power struggle as Finn faces a family meltdown and a dangerous medical choice. The calm before the storm in The Bold and the Beautiful has officially shattered. The long-awaited return of Steffi Forrester is not just a homecoming, it's a declaration of war. And it's not only Luna Nozawa who finds herself in Steffi's crosshairs, but the entire internal balance of power within Forrester Creations. With new evidence in hand and fire in her eyes, Steffi isn't just picking up where she left off, she's reshaping everything. While old grudges, new alliances, and buried secrets churn beneath the surface, her return sets off a chain of events that threatens to pull everyone under, especially her husband. John Finn Finnegan, who finds himself trapped between the clashing women in his life, his wife, his motherly, and the looming, inescapable shadow of Sheila Carter. Steffi doesn't return quietly. She arrives with intent, armed with files and footage she claims will not only discredit Luna, but expose a truth that could realign the Forrester family forever. There's no room for nuance in her tone, only precision. She storms into the executive office and lays the evidence on the table, leaving Ridge, Brooke, and Eric stunned. According to Steffi, Luna not only lied about her past and her connection to the Spencer family, but may have manipulated events to climb her way into the inner circle of Forrester professionally and personally. The fallout is immediate. Ridge demands verification. Brooke is torn, hesitant to condemn Luna without understanding her full story. But Steffi isn't waiting for consensus. She forces the room to draw lines, turning Luna from an intern with rising potential into a flashpoint of division. Pledging that Forrester Creations needs protection from infiltration, Steffi begins rebuilding her alliance from the inside, starting with Thomas. Though recently on the path of redemption, Thomas has never been immune to power plays or Steffi's sharp sense of strategy. With his loyalty now tested, he finds himself torn between supporting his sister and acknowledging the feelings Luna once awakened in him. But Luna isn't backing down. Stunned by the attack, she demands the opportunity to defend herself. She insists the accusations are misleading, based on half-truths and misinterpretations designed to humiliate her. She pleads with R.J. Forrester, hoping his belief in her won't be shaken. But R.J., already under pressure to prove his maturity and commitment to the family business, is paralyzed. Choosing Luna means defying Steffi. Defying Steffi means stepping into a war he may not be prepared for. Meanwhile, in the eye of the storm stands Finn, caught in the most volatile position of all. His marriage to Steffi was already strained after her last departure. Her sudden return, aggressive posture, and refusal to listen to nuance have left him blindsided. Worse, her power move against Luna forces Finn to confront deeper personal conflicts because the drama at Forrester is bleeding into his private life. Lee, his adoptive mother, has her own complicated past with Luna's mother, Poppy. Their Cold War resurfaces with each confrontation. Lee sides fully with Steffi, accusing Luna of being just like her mother, manipulative, reckless, and dangerous. But Finn isn't so sure. He's seen another side of Luna, a younger woman broken by loss, trying to find her place in a family already fractured by legacy and resentment. And then there's Sheila, always lurking in the shadows, always waiting for an opening. Though physically absent, her presence remains a poison running through every one of Finn's decisions. And now she threatens to reappear through the one space no one can control, the hospital. Because the next chapter of this war may not be fought in boardrooms, but in operating rooms. A critical case arrives at the hospital, a patient in dire need of an experimental surgery approved only in limited trials. The case is controversial not because of the medicine, but because of who the patient is rumored to be connected to, someone possibly tied to Sheila's past. The hospital board wants to deny it. Lee wants to suppress it. Steffi demands Finn drop the case immediately. But Finn, ever the physician with unwavering ethics, sees only the patient, not the history. He knows the risks. He knows what it could mean for public relations, for his career, for his marriage. But he also knows the oath he took. and he believes he can handle the fallout. What he doesn't expect is that his decision becomes the match that lights the fuse. When Finn informs Steffi that he will move forward with the surgery, her reaction is immediate and visceral. She accuses him of betraying their family again, of choosing his past, his dangerous loyalties, over their future. You never shut the door on her, she spits, referring to Sheila. Not really? And now you're opening it back up, this time through a hospital bed. Finn, shaken but firm, responds that Steffi doesn't get to dictate how he practices medicine. "This is who I am," he says. If that's not something you can live with, then maybe you were never really back. The tension explodes. Steffi threatens to move out with the children again. Lee enters the fray, siding with her daughter-in-law. She calls Finn naive, reckless. She questions whether he's emotionally compromised. Finn accuses them both of moral rigidity and hypocrisy, pointing out that Steffi and Lee have both protected liars before when it suited them. In the middle of this, Luna, emotionally battered but not broken, confronts Steffi directly. In a raw, unscripted moment in the Forrester design room, Luna lays out the truth of her past, her pain, her struggle to find identity. "You think I'm a threat," she tells Steffi. "But I'm just a girl who walked into a family that already decided who I was before I even spoke." Steffi, visibly unmoved, delivers her final blow. "This isn't about your pain, Luna. It's about this family, and what I'm willing to do to protect it." At the same time, Ridge begins to feel the pressure. He knows Steffi is moving chess pieces fast, but he's not convinced the direction is right. Brooke warns him that letting this become a personal vendetta will only tear them all apart. Eric, though still recovering from his health scare, watches from a distance with growing unease. He knows that when family feuds begin to infect the foundation of Forrester Creations, no business, no matter how powerful, is immune to collapse. The lines have been drawn. Steffi versus Luna. Lee versus Finn. Carter and Hope versus their future. Are Jay torn in silence? Ridge drifting into the center of a storm he helped build. Brooke doing damage control. And somewhere beyond the edges of the frame, Sheila waits. Because if the Forrester family starts to destroy itself from within, she won't have to lift a finger to finish the job. As the bold and the beautiful hurdles into one of its most intricate and combustible arcs in years, the stakes have never been higher. Family versus truth. Power versus love. Vengeance versus redemption. And Finn's next move, one surgical decision, could shift the entire landscape of this war. This is no longer about business or betrayal. It's about legacy, blood, and who has the right to decide the future of the Forrester name. And the battle has just begun. The bold and the beautiful, the paternity lab scandal that could destroy everything, Luna's baby, a missing technician, altered records. And the shocking truth behind a pharmaceutical conspiracy, the latest chapter in The Bold and the Beautiful has detonated a storyline so explosive that it threatens to tear through not just personal relationships, but the very integrity of truth itself. At the center of the chaos is Luna Nozawa, whose pregnancy, already the source of emotional devastation, fractured loyalties, and a spiraling addiction crisis, now faces a deeper, darker twist. The question of paternity isn't just uncertain, it may have been deliberately manipulated. What began as a simple question of who fathered Luna's child has evolved into a multi-layered conspiracy implicating hospital staff, a missing lab technician, forged data, and a powerful pharmaceutical conglomerate that may have gone to terrifying lengths to bury the truth. The implications are staggering. And the man who was told he was the father, he may not be. It began innocently enough. Following her shocking arrest after Elektra discovered Luna's pregnancy and believed she had betrayed her with Will, Luna was subjected to intense scrutiny, judgment, and legal pressure. Though eventually released, the fallout from the accusations left Luna broken and isolated. Still, she pressed forward with the one hope she had left, confirming the paternity of her child. A blood test was ordered. Samples were taken from Luna and Will. The results came back 99.9% match. Will Spencer was the father. The news hit like a bomb. Elektra's rage intensified. Will spiraled further into substance abuse. Bill, shocked, tried to absorb the news. Katie attempted to maintain peace between the families. And Luna, crushed by the storm she had unintentionally triggered, had no choice but to accept the results and brace herself for a future she never expected. But then something strange happened. Another test was ordered quietly, this time not by Luna, not by Will, but by Lee Finnegan, Luna's aunt and a respected doctor in her own right. Skeptical of the initial results, concerned by inconsistencies in hormone levels and maternal fetal markers, Lee submitted for a retest under her credentials without informing anyone. The results arrived, and this time, the match percentage had dropped dramatically, enough to raise alarms, enough to raise questions. Suddenly, there were discrepancies. Numbers didn't match across labs. Metadata timestamps on the test results were off by hours, then days. One result was signed off by a technician who was no longer on active duty. When Lee tried to contact the technician, she discovered something chilling. He was missing. No call-ins, no return home, no trace. Disappeared. The pieces didn't add up. Lee, digging deeper, accessed hospital archives and discovered that several DNA test results from the same week had been recalled or amended. More disturbingly, the internal hospital network showed that someone had accessed and modified Luna's original test file. The person used a temporary administrative clearance badge registered to a recently suspended employee and employee with known ties to Medgene Biotech, a private pharmaceutical company operating out of Chicago with known interests in proprietary fetal diagnostics. When Lee presented her findings to Finn, he was stunned. Not just by the implications of a manipulated test, but by who may have been involved in covering it up. Medgene Biotech had once partnered with the hospital on a hormone therapy trial, one which Sheila Carter had briefly participated in under an alias. Though the partnership had officially ended, records showed that hospital systems still maintained a backdoor integration with Medgene's testing algorithm, a pipeline for data sharing, meant to improve results. But in the wrong hands, it also allowed third parties to tamper with test data. And someone had. Lee traced the signature on the altered file and internal log entry redirected through a dummy account that, after forensic analysis, pointed to a known lab tech, Bryce Lauder. Young, ambitious, and under financial stress, Bryce had once interned at Medgene before joining the hospital staff. His disappearance now seemed anything but random. Lee's contacts in Chicago confirmed it. Bryce had been in touch with a Medgene recruiter 3 days before his last known hospital login. Since then, no activity. His apartment was empty, his badge found in a trash bin near the docks. The conspiracy was no longer a theory. It was active, and it had consequences. When Luna was told about the possibility of tampering, her world shattered all over again. She had spent weeks trying to accept that Will was the father, adjusting to the idea, preparing herself for motherhood under public scrutiny, only to discover that everything may have been based on a lie. But who would go to such lengths? Who would benefit from changing her test results? That's when the other names began to surface. Elektra, desperate for control, had once worked with a biotech investor known for pushing early-stage diagnostics into the LA market. This investor had direct stock in Medgene Biotech, and through a complex chain of LLCs and shell accounts, records showed that the investor had quietly funneled money into the hospital's genomics department just days before the paternity test was run. The purpose? Infrastructure expansion, but the timestamp matched the moment Luna's file was first accessed. Was this Elektra's doing? A setup to frame Luna and ruin her credibility? Or a broader scheme to manipulate fetal health data for future clinical trials using Luna's high-profile case as a beta test? Either way, someone had interfered, and now everything was in doubt. With the data in question, a court-ordered third-party lab was brought in neutral, with no affiliations to the hospital or Medellin. This time, new samples were taken from Luna, Will, and shockingly to other men, R.J. Forrester and Carter Walton, because in the haze of scandal and grief, another truth had begun to circulate. Luna, emotionally broken after her fallout with Will, had confided in only one other man during her most vulnerable days, RJ. And Carter, always the silent protector, had once comforted her during a night she barely remembered after a medical scare following her initial pregnancy shock. Neither man had come forward, but with tampered evidence, no one could be ruled out. The retest results, kept tightly under wraps, were submitted directly to the judge handling Luna's custody protection order. And when the envelope was opened, the results sent shock waves through everyone in the room. Will was not the father. The test was conclusive, 0.00% probability, which begged the question who was. RJ's results were also negative, which left one name, Carter Walton. The man who had said nothing, the man who had stood beside Luna through every courtroom appearance, every hospital visit, every late-night panic, the man who had never admitted to anyone what had happened the night Luna collapsed in his guest room, shaking, scared, confused, and Luna sobbing, breathless remembered that night in fragments. Nothing had happened, they thought. Nothing intimate, just support, comfort, but now maybe not. Carter, stunned, didn't speak at first. Then he stood, hands trembling. If this is true, then I didn't know. I swear to you, I would never take advantage of her, but the timeline made sense. The DNA didn't lie. The night in question aligned with her ovulation window. The stress, the painkillers, the memory gaps, the vulnerability. The room fell into silence. Luna wept, not because of Carter, not because of the test, but because the last shred of stability she had clung to the identity of her child's father had vanished again, only to be replaced by a truth so complicated, so layered in uncertainty, that it felt like betrayal even if it wasn't. And Carter, he walked out of the courthouse alone. Now, the Forrester family faces a fallout unlike any they've known. A baby with a murky conception. A father who didn't know he was one. A lab tech missing, possibly dead. A pharmaceutical company under federal scrutiny. And 3 families now in collapse: Spencer, Forrester, and the fragile life Luna tried to rebuild. The biggest question remains, who authorized the tampering? Because someone wanted Will to be the father. Someone wanted to tear Luna down. Someone wanted to control the narrative. And whoever that is, they're still out there. As the bold and the beautiful barrels toward its next twist, one thing is clear. This is no longer about paternity. It's about power, control, and the terrifying price of manipulating the truth. And the next secret to be exposed may be even more dangerous than the last.